Welcome everybody, welcome to the Soapui training at soapuitutorial.com. We'll be doing module 2, that is Groovy Introduction. We'll be learning about Groovy scripting. Fine. In the earlier module, if you look at the earlier module, which was Introduction to Web Services, right? We had looked at what a web service is, how it is implemented, that is it is implemented using XML. There is a SOAP protocol, there is a REST protocol, there are various protocols which are there in web services. So to test all those protocols with the help of Soapui, you need to know Groovy as a language. Soapui is made by some company known as SmartBear, and that company has introduced the language as Groovy scripting inside Soapui. Fine. It's not a very tough language, right? It will be very easy. Just need to give in some time. If you look at this thing, then the major question which many people they ask me is that why do we need scripting or programming language when we are testing web services? Okay, look, it's quite easy. If you look at this thing, that is, if you look at the XML, for example, out here in the last module I had made an XML something like this. Suppose this is your XML. I'll open it in Chrome. Suppose this is your XML, right? And this suppose XML is coming back to you in response, and you need to validate this XML. For example, you need to check whether the provider name tag is equal to Cathay Pacific or not, or if the cost is equal to 1000 USD or not, or you want to check 4 tags should be coming under the trip response tag. Okay, so how will you count the number of tags which you are getting? So to do all these things you need to use Soapui. Soapui along with Groovy scripting. In Soapui you need to use Groovy scripting. Suppose in the Excel file, what we'll be doing is we'll be keeping an XLS file or an say XML file in which we will keep our expected data, right? For example, in the XML file I have kept that fine, the cost should be 1000 USD. So now with this expected data I want to compare the cost which is coming up in the response. So this comparison between these two values will be done with the help of Groovy. Alright, so let's study Groovy language. It's not a very difficult language. If you know Java, then it will be very easy for you. It is something which runs on the top of JVM. If this is your JVM, right, then Groovy scripting runs on the top of JVM. Alright, and out here, if you look in the website soapui.org, right, I told in the last module there are various download options available. I have downloaded the OS version and I have installed it on my machine. I request you to download this as well and install it. Later on we'll be looking at the pro version as well, right? Let's start with the open source version of Soapui. Fine, this is the open source version. Hold on, I'll close it, right, and I'll again open it. This is the icon on my desktop. You can open this Soapui, right? It's made by SmartBear. Fine. Now when you open Soapui, you will see the starter page. You can close this. Fine. And over here you have got various you can say windows, right? The most important window is out here. Out here in this window we will be writing all our Groovy script over here. Fine. In the panel somewhere over here in the left side, we will be storing all our projects. Okay, and in the panel out here which you see, this one, you will actually store properties. Fine, I'll talk about properties as we proceed. This is a very important thing, properties in Soapui, right? Apart from that, you will also see that there are various tabs in the bottom: Soapui log, HTTP log, error log, WSRM log, memory log. Fine, if you click on these you get various panels, right? Soapui log, this is basically implementing logging and all. So we look at that one, these things also in detail. So there are various panels at the bottom over here. There is a workspace property panel, project panel, and the central panel. These are the four, five basic panels available, right? Now if you have to create a new project, you can right click and create a new Soapui project. Everything starts from creating a new Soapui project. Alright, or if you can go to file, new Soapui project, and you can create it. Okay, I'll create a new Soapui project and I will call it Groovy Introduction. Fine, and click on OK button. There is no need to enter the WSDL or anything. We'll look at it later on. Right, you click on OK and you'll see the project created over here, and at the bottom you'll see the properties of the project. Name of the project, description, file. There are some project properties and there are some custom properties. Right, custom properties are defined by the user. Fine, project properties, they are inbuilt. Right, although you can change the names and all whatever you want. Fine, now out here in the project I'll tell you, hold on, there are various levels in Soapui. Right, for example, there is a project level, there is a test case level, sorry, after project level there is a test suite level, then there is a test case level, then there is a test step level. Fine, in the test step level we actually go and implement the Groovy language. Right, all these levels, as the name suggests, everybody knows that in testing we have got a test case. Under the test case you have got multiple test suites. Under each test suite you have got multiple test cases, and in Soapui under each test case you will have multiple test steps. Okay, fine, so let's talk about each and every of these levels. We'll be using all these levels, right? So now looking at the project Groovy Introduction, now this level Groovy Introduction is actually known as the project level. Fine, now in a project we can have a test suite, so I can right click over here, select new test suite, just click the name as test suite 1. Fine, so you see that a test suite 1 is created inside it. Now I can also create another test suite 2, and similarly test suite 3. Right, these are the windows representing each and every test suite. Right, so you can have multiple test cases under each and every test suite. Right, for example, in test case suite 1 I create a new test case 1. Right, and inside a test case you can, in Soapui you can create multiple test steps. If you select this option add step, you'll see a lot of things like test request, Groovy script, properties, property transfer, conditional go to. So all these are various test steps. Fine, whether it is a SOAP test request or a REST test request step or a HTTP test request, Groovy script test step will be used a lot. Fine, this is the test step, right, in which you will actually go and write your Groovy code. Fine, so there are various levels out here. Fine, this was the project level as I had explained you. This is the test suite level, this is the test case level, this is the test step level. Fine, so there are 4 levels: project, test suite, test case, and test step. Fine, I'm telling you because you will be using the levels, interaction between the various levels as we proceed with the course. Fine, for example, in test suite 2 I create a new test case, and in that test case I create a new Groovy script test step. Fine, suppose this Groovy script test case in hold on, yeah, suppose this Groovy script test step has to interact with this Groovy script test step or with any other test step in the other test case, that is possible. Fine, so we will look at all those aspects as well. So right now just understand there are various levels. Okay, now coming over to log object of Soapui. Fine, in Soapui you have a log object. If you look at this carefully, the wordings written over here, it is clearly written that script is invoked with log, context, and test runner variables. Fine, so every Groovy script test has got these 3 variables. Let's talk about the log variable. Log variable is analogous to like printf in C language, system.out.println in Java language, right? If you want to print something in the output, then you use this log object. Okay, there are two types of logs. One is info log, and hold on, info log, and the other one is known as error log. Fine, I'll just tell you. If I write over here log.info hello soapui, fine, and if I run this is the icon to run. You'll see that in your log output window over here, you will get hello soapui. Along with that, if you click on this tab, soapui log or error log will be empty right now. Fine. In case you have to do general logging in SoapUI, right? That is, you want to print that fine, this test step is starting, I am sending this XML, receiving this XML, reading the values from the XML, printing the values from the XML, right? You can use info logs. You can write log.info to print these normal things. Fine. But if you write over here log.error, right? Some error while executing. Fine, and if you run this, you see the error log will come up over here. Okay, so info logs are something which will give you general information. For example, I can write over here starting the test, right? Somewhere in the end I can write ending the test, and in between if there is an error, I can report the errors in the logs by writing this. Fine, so it will execute accordingly. Okay, you can clear the logs as well. You can right click and select clear, and logs will be cleared. Fine. Otherwise, if you don't clear, the new logs will keep on appending the old logs. Alright, now there is a physical location of these logs as well. That is, you can create you will see a log file on your hard disk in which these logs are generated. Fine. If you go to the installation directory of your SoapUI, that is in your program files, you'll have a folder known as SmartBear. Okay, inside this you'll find the SoapUI, and in SoapUI you'll look at the bin folder. Okay, look at the bin folder. Inside the bin folder you'll see soapui.logs and soapui error.log. In soapui.log file, all the log.info statements go. See, that's what I was printing, right? Hello soapui and all that stuff. Along with that, the error statements also go. Alright, and if you open this soapui error.log, hold on, scroll down. It's quite difficult to read this one. Errors also go into this. Fine, but primarily we focus on soapui.log file. Okay, in this log you will see all the info as well as the error logs going in. Fine. If you want, you can also change the location of this log file, right? First of all, there are two things to note. Firstly, this log file is not generated again and again. Fine. If I run the script once, this log file is generated. If I run the script again, the new, instead of creating the new log file, the new logs are appended in the older logs. If you look at this, all the new logs were being appended in the older logs. Okay, it's, you don't, this file doesn't create every time, right? Old logs are also there, new logs are also there. This is the difference. If you use the if you use the paid version of SoapUI, then you get an option to create a new log file for every run. Fine, but that's not a big bottleneck. We can use this one as well, right? If you open the file over here known as SoapUI log4j.xml, fine, you open it, and over here, hold on, you have the information about soapui.log file. This is the parameter over here, the file path. You can give any path that I want the log file to be in my C drive, like this, or any path. So this log file will be generated in that particular path, but you'll have to restart your SoapUI once if you change this path. Okay, I'll talk about this thing again. These are the variables, like maximum file size can be 5000 KB. After that, a new file will be made, or some variables like that. Okay, this is the appender for the SoapUI logs. Fine, but I just keep this location as this one only. I don't change the location. If you want to change the location of the logs, you can change it from this place. All right. Okay. Now what we have studied, we have studied basics right now, that is how to do the logging, error logging and all, what are the various levels and all, right? Now another important concept before I actually move over in Groovy is that, you know what, in case, right, in case you close this Soapui, right, Soapui will not prompt you to save the project, your project information will be lost. It is very important to save the project, okay, or rather you set a auto save interval. This is very important thing. It might look simple to you, but practically you make 1,000 lines of code, and if accidentally your SOAP-UI closes while executing, it hangs or something like that, okay, then what will happen is everything will go for a toss. Alright, you'll simply lose your information. Fine. So another good feature over here is that you go into file preferences and go into UI settings, right? Inside UI settings you'll get the option auto save interval over here. You put any minutes, like auto save after every 10 minutes, so this will save the thing. Create backup, you can also create the backup. You can specify the backup folder over here for the script. The scripts will be stored as a backup over there. So this is important, always do this. Fine, otherwise if you normally close OPI as well, all the information is lost. Okay, we are using the free version, not the paid version, right? When you run this, fine. So that this is one of the important things which I wanted to discuss. Now let's actually start with the Groovy scripting. Fine, this is one Groovy script test step. Okay, I can create multiple Groovy script test steps in a single project. If I add a new test step known as Groovy script 2, say script 2. So this is another test step over here. I can write anything inside it, that is log.info script 2. Fine, and I can run this test step individually. This will execute. If I want to run both of them together, you can double click on the test case level, right? Double click on the test case level, you will get both the scripts over here. When you run this, you will see both of them executing. Fine, you will not see anything coming up in the normal logs. Okay, you will have to open the logs which are generated on the hard disk, and you will be able to see in them. Okay, this is the script which is getting created. Sorry, logs which are getting created, right? So at the test case level, if you execute, you will not see a separate logging option, right? If you run this, you have this. Okay, now if you open script 2, fine. Now like any other programming language, Groovy has also got if statements, it's got variables, fine, it's got loops. Alright, now you write the Groovy script over here. Fine, you write simple scripting out here. Fine. Now when you also have an option. Okay, you also have an option that you can create .groovy files in your hard disk. For example, on this, in this folder, I can create a file known as, say, library.groovy. Fine, this is a hardcore Groovy file. Later on, as we proceed with the project, I will be writing Groovy script inside this file as well, and I will be invoking this script from my Soapui. You can invoke the Groovy script which is there on your hard disk from Soapui as well, right? For example, if you note the concept of function library in QTP, that is, you create common functions which can be accessed by various things. For example, in this first test step, that is Groovy script, and I'll rename this test step. You press F2 and you can rename this. Hold on, it looks good. Yeah, so I have got two scripts, script 1 and script 2. Okay, suppose there is some common thing which has to be done within script 1 and within script 2 as well. So instead of repeating the code, you write the code in this standalone Groovy file and you call that code from both script 1 and script 2. So we'll be looking at that. If you're not able to understand this, forget about it, right? Let's look at simple Groovy scripting first. Fine. Okay, so the only reason I told you about this file is because to make you understand that you can write Groovy script in Soapui as well, also outside Soapui, and call it from Soapui. Fine. Calling the external Groovy script from Soapui we'll look at later on. Fine. Let me explain you first simple concepts of Groovy. In Groovy, you can suppose in any other language, if I have to declare a variable, what do I write? I write say int I equals to 100 or something. In Groovy, we'll write it a little bit differently. You write define x equals to 100. Then x automatically becomes an integer. If I write define y equals to hello world, then y automatically becomes a string. Fine. In Groovy, if you write define z equals to some decimal number, then this automatically becomes a double, right? So in Groovy there is no in there is an integer or something, but generally we write defined keyword. Okay. Like any other programming language, you have got um, if statements, right? For example, you can write over here if x is equal to 100, then do something that is log.info. You can print value of x is, and you write over here plus x. Plus is a concatenation operator. Okay, this string has to be concatenated with the value of x. So you don't write the value of x inside the double quotes, you write it outside, concatenated with the plus sign. So when you run this, it prints value of x is 100. Tomorrow if you change it to 200, this condition will not match. So you can write it to something inside else. You can write log.info, value of x is not 100 but it is, you can write the value of x over here. So when you run this, you'll write over here value of x is not 100 but it is 200. So this is very similar to Java language or any other programming language which you might have studied. Okay, it's not a big deal. It's a very powerful language as well. Don't think that it's a small language or it's a very sidey kind of a language. Groovy scripting, it's a very powerful language. Okay, similarly you have the concepts of loops in Groovy. You can write a for loop, say for int you can write int I equals to 0. I'll tell you about integer, hold on. I less than 100, I plus plus. If I write like this and if I write over here log.info I, and if you run this, see it prints numbers from 0 to 99 because I is going less than 100. Instead of int, if I write define I equals to 0, I less than 100, I plus plus, and if I run this, this will also work. Okay, so in Groovy, define keyword also works, or I can also write something like this, int a equals to 200. Int string keywords and all these will also work. It's up to you what you have to do. String b equals to temp. Okay, something like this. You can do anything. Fine. Now what if you make a mistake sometimes in the Groovy which you write? For example, if I don't close this bracket, okay, and if you run the code, then a window like this comes up, error window. You don't have to get afraid from this window. Okay, it's clearly written. Always read the first line. Multiple compilation errors, startup failed, script 7.groovy, okay, groovy 25, it's written. That means the error is on the, hold on, at line 25 it is writing, just a minute. It should be writing, it's writing that the line is the code is having the error on line number 25, but actually the error is over here. It is expecting you to close a bracket at 25, but you should close a bracket over here. If you read the error, it is clearly mentioning in the error that it is expecting the bracket to be closed. Fine, so you close the bracket out here. Or suppose if I forget to close this bracket and if I run this, it will tell you the exact line number. In this case, Groovy 15th line number over here. It's saying that close the bracket on this line, but it's actually over here. Fine. So Groovy scripting, if you actually come across an error, the error will come up in that kind of a box. Okay, so you can write loops, you can write if statements, you can write normal coding over here, right? Now this is very important because when we create other test steps, for example, if we create a test step tomorrow for REST test request, right? And when you execute, I'll not create it right now because there are few uh, preconditions for creating this test request. But if tomorrow if you create a request like this, and if you want to read the request which is going the XML, if you want to read the response and all, so you'll have to use this Groovy out there. Alright, so Groovy script is very important, don't be afraid of it, right? And if you look at the next thing, that's it. I think I've explained you everything, right? So the next module which we will be talking about will be this one. Just a minute. In this I'll talk about the concepts of object oriented programming. Hold on. If you go to the website soapui.tutorial.com, yeah, so I'll talk about Groovy in detail. I'll talk about static, non-static variables and all the other stuff, right? So let's continue with the module number 3 now.